Today we're working on a 2002 Saturn SC2, and we're going to be removing the brake master cylinder and replacing it with a rebuilt unit. So let's get started. The brake master cylinder sits at the back of the engine compartment, near the firewall. It's sandwiched between the brake booster and the PCM module. It's pretty crowded in there, so let's create some more working space. Get that out of the way. We need room to work, but while I'm here, I'll disconnect the fluid level sensor. I'm not disconnecting the PCM module. I just want to move it back into the battery box. That doubles our workspace. This is the clutch fluid reservoir. Unclip and move to the side. This is a 15mm nut, one on both sides. The brake lines are held into place by 4 flared nuts. Gently bend the brake lines out of the way, but not too much, or else they'll be harder to line back up again. Okay, we have the reservoir drained and everything is cleaned up. There's 2 pins fastening the reservoir to the cylinder. With a hammer and a pin punch, tap them out. Then separate the reservoir from the cylinder. To remove the sensor, pinch the tabs and pull the sensor out the other side. You can see the retaining clip around the outer edges of the bore. Now we're going to remove the clip. You need to push in on the plunger and then push the clip in. And then grab it and pull out. Now that the plungers have been removed, inspect the bore for scratches. Any sort of flaw will wear away at the seals and your master cylinder won't last very long. It would be better to trash the cylinder now if that were the case. Most of the cylinder is beyond the reach of a rag, so you have to patiently spray out the contaminants with a solvent. The solvent I'm using is regular brake cleaner. This is the old plunger that we took out. And this is the new one. Now let's install the hardware. We're using the Dorman rebuild kit TM351830. This is the order that the hardware goes into the bore. There's one spring, 2 plungers, and this retaining clip. First, the spring goes into the bore. Then the first plunger, with the nipple facing back toward us. Don't forget to pre-lube the seals with brake fluid. Brake fluid lubricates the seals as you slide the plungers into place. Then the larger plunger, the dimple pointing toward us in this direction. Take your snap ring, depress the plunger, and place the snap ring into the groove. Double check to see if the snap ring is fully seated into the groove. This isn't quite seated all the way, as you can see, but I clicked it into place using the screwdriver. Meanwhile, the reservoir has been soaking in denatured alcohol for several days now. The alcohol did a pretty good job. It helped dissolve some of the grime, but not all. Brake cleaner did a more thorough job. I sprayed it out and let it dry for a few hours. Then I lubricated the seals and installed the reservoir onto the cylinder. This is the fluid level sensor. I'm tapping the pins back in place. It's a lot easier to bleed the cylinder in this way than bleeding it after it's installed on the car. It's called bench bleeding. Using a screwdriver, I'm pumping the plungers at the back of the bore in order to push the fluid through the lines. All it takes is a few pumps for the lines to start running clear. To install, push the master cylinder into the mounting studs. Tighten the 2 15mm nuts. The brake lines. Reconnect the sensor. The clutch fluid bottle. I bolted down the PCM and now I'm lowering the battery. put the air duct back in place, and we're finished with this job. There it is, it's all complete.